Hi, this is the introduction to benzene. This is governed by OSHA Standard 29 CFR 1910.1028. Benzene is a carcinogen, which is identified as a colorless liquid with a sweet odor used in petrochemicals, solvents, plastics, and rubber. Exposure to benzene can cause leukemia and blood disorders in the short term, dizziness and headaches, and the long term bone marrow damage. Exposure is through inhalation and skin contact in liquid form. OSHA limits the exposure to benzene to 1 part per million in an 8-hour period. For STEL, it's 5 parts per million for a 15-minute period, and an action level of 0.5 parts per million. Exposure monitoring is required if benzene is present. Initial and periodic monitoring, and the employees notified of the results. The controls is use of a closed system, local exhaust ventilation, and process isolation. Workplace controls are limited duration of tasks, good housekeeping, and proper handling techniques. The PPE used for benzene exposure are respirators, gloves, and protective clothing. You need respiratory protection when the PEL is exceeded. Non-NOISH approved respirators, medical evaluation, and fit testing is required. There is no eating or drinking in an exposure area, and you must wash your hands and face before breaks. Medical surveillance is required if there's exposure of greater than 0.5 parts per million for 30 days a year, and requires annual exams and blood tests. Some consumer products that have benzene is adhesives and cleaning agent, but OSHA does not regulate general consumer exposure, only workplace exposure. There must be appropriate warning signs in the regulated area. There must be labels on containers, and annual training is required. Emergency procedures include to evacuate the area on a large spill, PPE for the cleanup, and the reporting of the exposure immediately. The spill and leak procedures are to use absorbents and proper containers, ventilate the area, and notify the safety officer. It is to be stored in flammable storage cabinets and use secondary Containment. All monitoring results, medical records, and training documents must be kept. The employee has a right to the exposure records and the right to decline unsafe work. In summary, benzene is dangerous even at low levels. Control exposure and the use of PPE is required and must follow procedures and get training.